Did you know Mr. Beast, the biggest YouTuber in history, has admitted that he has absolutely no access to his personal bank accounts? Did you know that he signed over complete control of his entire fortune, giving someone else the power to literally pull the plug on his entire online persona? Did you know he gave someone complete control, including the power to immediately delete or destroy not only his most subscribed to YouTube channel on planet Earth, but also every single one of his social media accounts, plus all his computers, devices, and hard drives? And did you know that this is a public record? Let me show you what I mean. Looking into the question of whether Mr. Beast or someone else fired Ava Chris Tyson led me down the long and winding road that I'm still trying to navigate, but I thought y'all would find the ramifications of this pretty interesting to say the least. So first, let's look at the admitted proof that he does not have access to his personal bank accounts in this Time magazine article. Now, in this paragraph of a long expose, the author is talking about Jimmy's mother, Susan Marie King Donaldson Perisher, aka Sue. The magazine discusses Perisher's time spent in the Army as a prison warden and compares the experience to how she runs the Mr. Beast operation. Now, officially, at the time of the Time magazine article, Sue was the chief compliance officer for the Mr. Beast empire, overseeing the company's expenditures and contracts. So this is very important, while managing her son's personal affairs, such as his banking. Now, according to this same Time magazine article I mentioned, Mr. Beast employees said that Sue was basically the human resources officer. So for me, that was kind of answering the question, who fired Ava Chris Tyson? But in the article, the author says they talked to a spokesperson for the Mr. Beast company, and they said, no, Susan is not the HR manager or whatever. She's this chief compliance officer. But in this paragraph, they quote Mr. Beast, aka Jimmy. So it says his mom has worked for him, for Jimmy, since 2017. Her role seems to be similar to her job as a warden at a military prison. Okay, so I did look into this prison, and it's the Department of Defense military prison where they would hold like military criminals. And she was the first female warden. She said it was in Heidelberg, Germany. They say Mannheim. I don't know, maybe they're close. But she was the first female prison warden of this military prison, this Department of Defense military prison. So when she was being a prison warden, the Time magazine article says that she's doing the same thing at Mr. B. She's acting like a prison warden. I mean, look at it. Her role seems to be similar to her job as warden at a military prison, keeping an eye on things. Quote, now here's Jimmy getting quoted. That's Mr. Beast. I don't have access to any of my bank accounts. I have a CFO and everything, and then they have this in brackets, Perisher, like his mom, is the one who has access to the master bank account. Okay, fine, whatever. It seems like he's fine with it, whatever. Now, in this Time magazine article, the author does go on to say some more, I don't know, a little bit interesting, a little bit telling, a little bit unsettling things about Sue. And it has to do with the way that she is running this operation like a prison warden. Let me show you what I mean. So this comes from that paragraph that I already referenced where it says Perisher's title, that's Sue, is Chief Compliance Officer, but many employees say she's effectively in charge of human resources. A spokesperson says she's not. Zavaleta, they're interviewing with somebody, says he tried to let her know that people were unhappy. And then this Zavaleta person says that he told Sue, quote, I'm going to tell you right now that if the company keeps treating people the way it's been treating people, Jimmy is going to have no one left to work for him. So according to this one employee, Sue was already given a little trouble in paradise. Literally, no one's going to want to work for him anymore. And they all say, whenever they have these complaints, everybody's always saying, oh, I have no problem with Jimmy in particular. It's the team, it's the environment, it's his mom, it's this person, it's that person. Now, devil's advocate could be, yeah, because he put himself in that position on purpose. He puts a lot of people in between him and the employees or him and other people. And so it's like, you can't really blame him. I mean, for me personally, I don't know. I still don't know enough about him as a person to be able to tell you. But apparently, whenever somebody came up to Sue and said, if you keep treating people like this, nobody's going to be want to work for your son anymore. Apparently, she was shocked. Apparently, Sue was shocked by that proposition. She asked for time, but there was no follow-up meeting. A spokesperson did not respond to an inquiry about this interaction. Okay, so Little Trouble in Paradise with Sue. Little Trouble in Paradise, just from that one Time magazine article, we get a lot of information. We get the information that Sue is in control of Mr. Beast's bank accounts, but all the way to the extent that he does not have access. Okay, that's a different thing than, oh, his mom also has access. That's a different thing than I don't have access, but my mom does. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's giving Jamie Spears. It's giving Jamie Spears. Yes, it is. Moving on. Now, I got some more information from this Mr. Beast Burger lawsuit, which was settled last year. Remember the Beast Burger fiasco? They were putting out those nasty looking burgers and Mr. Beast went and tweeted about it and everything. If you don't know about it, basically during the whenever takeout was at its peak, at its highest, Mr. Beast, the brand, entered into a deal with this other company to basically have these like ghost kitchens, the virtual kitchens, cook burgers and other things with the Mr. Beast licensing and the branding or whatever. And it was very successful. One thing leads to another and stuff starts falling apart. Stuff starts being nasty. Jimmy was getting complaints and he starts tweeting about it. One thing leads to another and there's a big lawsuit, $100 million lawsuit. Okay. He sued them. They sued him back. It was a whole thing, but they have settled that lawsuit or at least come to some type of agreement because it's been dismissed. They voluntarily dismissed it. So in that lawsuit, Jimmy himself and Beast Investments, which is the licensing company for Mr. Beast, they are the defendants. So Sue did not get sued. It was just Jimmy and Beast Investments that got sued in this lawsuit. So in this $100 million lawsuit, the partners allege that Jimmy broke his end of the bargain by failing to participate in the marketing of the burgers and by making a series of kind of bratty tweets. 3 of the tweets from this lawsuit stand out to me in particular. Here's one where the Mr. Beast account, which I'm assuming was Jimmy, tweeted, "If I had the ability to close it, I would have done so a long time ago, sadly. Sometimes when you're young, you sign a deal." And then on or about June 16th, 2023, the Mr. Beast account tweeted in response to a follower's question as to whether he would retire Mr. Beast Burger. He said, "I would if I could, but the company I partnered with won't let me stop, even though it's terrible for my brand. Young Beast signed a bad deal." So again, he's saying he signed a bad deal, which just on first instance definitely looks like he means he signed a bad deal with the company, with this VDC company that he was getting in the lawsuit with. There's one more tweet I want to bring to y'all's attention before we move on. It's another tweet about the same issue, and it was also included in the lawsuit. And it says the following: "Yeah, it's impossible to guarantee the quality of orders with virtual restaurants. Hurts my soul to see orders messed up. Sadly, I can't get out of my deal with Beast Burger. Hence," this part's very important. Just keep this in your mind because it's coming back up. "Hence why I am never giving up control of Feastables," that's the candy bar company, "so I can always do what's best for my fans. Harsh lesson to learn." Okay, so what do we get from these 3 tweets? The first 2 tell us that he's saying he signed a bad deal. The third one is saying he's never giving up control of Feastables. So on its face, according to Jimmy, it looks like he's saying he signed a bad deal with this restaurant company, with VDC or whatever, right? But that's not exactly true. At least not how he's putting it. On page 9 of the Beast Burger lawsuit, we learn that it was not Jimmy who signed the contract with this company, but rather it was Jimmy's mom, Susan Marie King Donaldson Perisher. Look at it right here. Paragraph 36. "Donaldson's mother executed the ESA, which is the agreement, as an authorized representative of Beast Investments and on behalf of Donaldson personally pursuant to a power of attorney." So Susan signed this agreement for Jimmy as a person and for Beast Investments, which is the licensing company. So she is the one that signed for both signature pages. So if this is true, which, girl, I know people can lie in a lawsuit. I've seen it. But if it's true that Sue is the one who signed this Beast Burger agreement, what could Jimmy be talking about when he says that young Beast signed a deal? He didn't sign that deal. His mom did. So why didn't he just blame her? Seems like an easy out, even if just for the PR of it. Like, hey guys, look, someone signed that on my behalf. I didn't even sign the deal, But I can actually understand a lot of reasons. I can think of a lot of reasons why he wouldn't do that, including maybe he's just not trying to throw his mom under the bus. Maybe she's been through so much and she was trying to help him, and why would he do that or something, right? So, the way I see it, either he's trying to just take one for the team, not throw her under the bus, or maybe he did approve of the deal. Maybe he did approve of it. Still read through the whole thing and said, yeah, mom, go do the business deal, didn't sign it. But maybe he did approve of it and he's trying to do the right thing by holding to his agreement, but kind of not really, because he is disparaging them, which was part of the agreement too. But anyway, like I said, I know as well as anybody that people can lie in a lawsuit. So I did want to get more proof. I don't want to just take one thing one person said in a lawsuit as some type of proof. It's just, it was a thing that I noticed and I thought y'all would find interesting. So I set out to find more proof that Sue is the one signing these agreements on behalf of Mr. Beast and or on behalf of Beast the brand. And I found the proof. Let me show you what I mean. In October 2018, Jimmy signed a power of attorney, allowing Sue to effectuate certain business transaction on a piece of real estate. So it was like buying some real estate. He signed a power of attorney, basically allowing her to handle that, and that's normal. It's a limited power of attorney. But then not even 2 years later, on April 7th, 2020, Jimmy would sign one of the most all-encompassing, wide-reaching, broad powers of attorney that I have ever seen. And it would be to Sue. It would be to his mother. But it wasn't until September 2023, so like less than a year ago, that the power of attorney document would be filed publicly with the Pitt County Register of Deeds, which I do have and I'll put up here on the screen. And this would show the entire world who, in my opinion, was really running Mr. Beast, the brand. Okay, so this is that power of attorney right here. And we're not going to do a whole entire, line by line, but I do want to point to some curious and interesting aspects of this public record that I got for free from a public source, the Pitt County Registry of Deeds, free and public, before y'all want to start acting sideways. Now, if you look at the top, it says type consolidated real property. So I've reason to believe that this was in connection with a real estate transaction as well. And that's why she had to actually file it with the registry. And this is how I found Bam Margera's power of attorney that his dad had over him as well, through the same type of search. Okay, look at this. It's called durable general power of attorney. So not a limited power of attorney, a general power of attorney. And again, like I said, this is filed in 2023, but it was signed April 7th, 2020. Okay. Designation of agent. I, James Stephen Donaldson of Pitt County, North Carolina, designate my mother, Susan King Parisher, as my agent for the purpose set out below. I grant to Susan general authority to act for me with respect to the subjects described in North Carolina general statutes, the descriptive terms of which are followed. Okay, so these are the categories, among others, but these are the ones he's wanting to enumerate for the county here to let us know. These are all the areas that Sue has the authority to act basically as Jimmy. Basically, she is Jimmy. She is Mr. Beast for the purposes of these categories. Number 1, real estate. 2, tangible personal property. That means a Lamborghini. That means a laptop. That means anything you can hold, put in your pocket, anything you can drive around. Personal property that's not real estate, that's not fixed to the ground. That. Stocks and bonds. So together with commodities, options, and banks and other financial institutions, that means all of his finances, all of them, including his investments. Operating his entity or business. Insurance policies or annuities, estates, that means his will, his trusts, other beneficial interests, claims and litigation. So she has the authority to act on his behalf when it comes to settling a lawsuit, for example. Personal and family maintenance. I don't know what that means under statute 32C2204, 32C2216. I didn't read it. I ain't going to right now. But I do wonder what this exactly means. Personal and family maintenance. What does that mean? Benefits from government programs or civil or military service. I don't know if this might be a catch-all, but I would be surprised to find out that Mr. Beast was in the military. And retirement plans. So then it goes on and it talks about gifts, and it just basically says she has the authority to make gifts on his behalf, change the rights of survivorship in ownership arrangements, including bank accounts, And then he puts in here in italics, except that my agent cannot increase my agent's interest in any such account. So basically, she's allowed to do everything she wants to do in these accounts, but she can't give herself a raise, essentially. The power to create a new beneficiary of his retirement plan or his insurance or annuity contract. So I don't know if that's a life insurance policy, as does she have the right to put her husband as the life insurance beneficiary? I mean, I really don't know. He also gives over to Susan the power to delegate to another person any authority granted to her. So not only can she do all this stuff, she can give that authority to somebody else. She has the authority to exercise any fiduciary power that Mr. Beast has the authority to delegate. And this right here, this big chunk of a paragraph, is the most alarming and frightening aspect of this whole video. So pay attention. Paragraph H says, Jimmy is giving over to Sue. And this was signed all the way back in 2020. Okay. Seems to be it's still in effect because it's still on the record up here. He could have took it from her. All he has to do to take this power of attorney is put it in writing and send it to her in a certain way. But what I will say is it's still on the record right now. I mean, I downloaded it this morning for free. So Jimmy gives over to Sue, his mother, and back in 2020, still on the record in 2023, exercise authority over digital assets. This is scary. As somebody who owns YouTube channels, okay, 2 little, 3 little, 4 little channels, little baby channels, tiny, teeny, tiny baby channels compared to what he got, okay? Teeny, tiny compared to what he got. It makes me weak in my knees to think about giving anybody on planet Earth this amount of authority over my property. It's insane. Let me show you what I mean. He gives to Sue the power to exercise authority and take control over and request an authorized disclosure of the contents of that's Jimmy's, electronic communications sent or received by him. Any catalog of electronic communications sent or received by me and any other digital asset of mine. Any. Do y'all have any idea how far reaching the implications of just this first sentence, and we haven't even gotten to the craziest parts? Oh, imagine giving your mom this much control over your simple Instagram account, y'all. The power to exercise authority and take control over and request an authorized disclosure of the contents of any electronic communication. Authorized disclosure of the contents of his electronic communications. That's text messages. That's emails. Any of my electronic communications. Emails, text messages, WhatsApp, Telegram. What the hell? Why does she need that authority? Isn't he like 30 years old? How old is this man? 26? This shall include the same powers and rights I possess over all my digital assets. What does that mean? What does that mean? Hereinafter defined. Okay. She's going to get the power to access, use, control, transfer, and dispose of, that means destroy, my digital services, including my desktops, laptops, tablets, and peripherals, storage devices, mobile phones, smartphones, and any similar device which currently exists or may exist as technology develops, or such comparable items as technology develops for the purpose of accessing, using, modifying, deleting, or controlling, transferring, or disposing of my digital assets? What? Why? Why? This is conservatorship or jail period. Like, why? Why? This includes the same powers and rights that I possess over all of my digital assets, including, but not limited to, his computers, desktop, laptop, tablet, peripherals, storage devices, that's hard drives, disks, SD cards, phones, mobile devices, mobile telephones, smartphones, any similar digital device that currently exists. And then they take it further, or may exist as technology develops. Why? What's the purpose? Oh, I'll tell you. Of accessing, using, modifying, deleting, controlling, transferring, or disposing any of my digital assets. Oh my God. It goes more. We're not even halfway done with that paragraph. Also, the power to access, use, modify, delete, control, transfer, and dispose of my digital assets hereinafter defined. What does a digital asset mean? All of my files stored on my digital devices and my backup systems. Desktops, laptops, tablets, peripherals, storage devices, mobile telephones, smartphones, any similar digital device which currently exists or may exist in the future as technology develops. All emails received by me, my email accounts, such as any and all Gmail, Yahoo, AOL accounts, my digital music, digital photographs, digital videos, digital games, software licenses, social network accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Flickr, Shutterfly, and YouTube accounts. What? This, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. This gives Susan Marie King Donaldson Perisher the authority, the right, the express stated legal authority to delete, destroy Mr. Beast's YouTube accounts. I don't want my mama having that type of, if you watching, I mean, I love you and stuff, girl, but I don't want nobody having that right over my stuff. Why would I? Why would anybody? It just begs the question of why? Why? Like I told y'all, I've never seen anything like this. This is way beyond. When I saw Jamie Spears try to do something like this, the Copyright Office shut him down. Who also gives her the right over his domain registrations, domain name system service accounts, the web hosting accounts, the tax preparation service accounts, all of his online stores, all of the affiliate programs, and other online accounts, similar digital items which currently exist or may exist as technology develops, such comparable items as technology develops, regardless of the ownership of the physical device upon which the digital item is stored. So if somebody else has Mr. Beast's digital assets on their computer, this gives her the right to, it looks like, initiate litigation trying to sue him for it. Also gives her an alarming amount of power, in my opinion, an alarming amount of power over his trust, which is what can happen to his money when he dies, or how it would be administrated even now. Power to exercise powers as grantor of a revocable trust with respect to revoking and amending his trust. The addition to the trust, any part of Mr. Beast's real or personal property or his interest in the property. And importantly here, none of this requires his consent. From the looks of this, unless it's been revoked, again, I don't know. I mean, anything could have happened in the last year. And I do suspect, actually, between me and you, I suspect that Jimmy has kind of pulled the rug out from under Susan. And I'm going to show y'all the evidence of that as the third piece of evidence. But I suspect he's kind of over it, like over this like helicopter military warden mom, prison guard mother. I think he's over it. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But as far as this is written right here, it looks like Susan has literally the whole entire business by the you-know-what, or at least she did. And it doesn't require, this is a very important part. Let's say Susan, based on this, if in my opinion, I don't know, I'm not an expert in this, okay? But based on my reading of this, which I just read to y'all, I don't have any more information than you, but based on my reading of this, she wouldn't even have to tell him in writing, tell him in verbal, nothing at all. She could log into these accounts and delete them because she feels like it. Now, there is a provision in here that does say, she would still have to be acting in his best interest, or the interest as if she knows them to be. So if he would have told her, at some point, don't delete much, and she did it anyway, I think she would be in violation of this. But it does set up a very tricky dichotomy. Like, who's in charge? Who's in charge here? If y'all want me to do a whole video going over like exactly line by line this whole power of attorney, I will, but I don't really want to at this point. One other thing I want to point out from the document is this provision right here, because y'all know I am the conservatorship whisperer. Guardianship is another word for a conservatorship. It is an assignment of someone's legal rights to someone else. And he does designate his mother as his guardian if he were to ever need one. Look what it says. I nominate my agent, that's Sue, acting under this document to be my general guardian or the guardian of my estate if protective proceedings for my estate have begun after I execute this power of attorney. Now, just to be clear, just to be fair, I think this is a smart idea. I think anybody rich, and it don't always work because the conservatorship and the probate courts are banana republic courts. They are fake. They're kangaroo courts, and they're just literally slave courts. But I think this is a smart idea. This is not legal advice. Go hire you a lawyer if you need one, to say, look, I'm rich, or I'm about to be rich. And in the case that any of these greedy, sticky fingers assholes out here think that they're going to take me into a guardianship. I want to go ahead and put somebody in place right now who's going to be the guardian while I'm in my right mind before these people are trying to grab at my fortune. So I think it is smart. I think it's smart even to make your own mother your guardian in the case that those proceedings were to be effectuated. But it's interesting. This shows the level of trust. You see what I'm saying? He signed this in April 2020. That means he turned 20. So he turned 18 in like 2016. So this is when he was like 22 years old. So he was like a grown up. He was like a grown up person. It wasn't like he was grown up. Then it's like, okay, she has to keep track of the accountings like Lou Taylor does or whatever. And then it says he can revoke her being the agent. He has to put it in writing and sign it. It has to be delivered to her either in person or to her last known address by certified or registered mail with the return receipt requested. Okay. So he can revoke it. There's also an alarming section about a healthcare agent. I'm not saying he has a healthcare agent. This might be a standard provision, but it sure does say Sue has to cooperate with the healthcare agent appointed pursuant to a healthcare power of attorney, meeting the requirements of Article 3 on Chapter 32A of the General Statutes. Any decision affecting my property or financial affairs, including a decision as to the disbursement of money or other property belonging to me, which is made by my healthcare agent, comes before Sue. So I don't know what that's about, okay? And then it says, yeah, people can rely on this. People that are making deals can rely on this power of attorney. And look, right there, he signed it right there. He was about 22 years old, about 21 or 22 years old. Okay. So after all that, I had one big question remaining. What about Feastables? Remember he had tweeted that he was never giving up control over Feastables, the chocolate candy bar company? So to me, in my opinion, this implies one of two things. Either Susan Marie King Donaldson Perisher is the one who might have took control over the first company with the whole Mr. Beast burger deal legally by power of attorney, or someone else did. Someone else did. Somebody took control over this company. That wasn't him based on this tweet, right? I'm never giving up control of Feastables, he said. So either Susan is the one took control or somebody else. So I looked further. I went to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office to look into the ownership of the Feastables intellectual property to see, in fact, who was in control of the branding and marketing of this company. And it is kind of confusing, but it was 3 separate companies listed. A company called Beast Holdings owned Feastables Mr. Beast, which is an abandoned mark. And another company called Night Media Inc. was also involved as well. But then there's this company called Feastables Inc., which is actually based in Chicago. I'll get into a longer video on this one day if y'all want, but spoiler alert, not one of these documents that I saw lists the name of Susan Marie King Donaldson Perisher. Now, Jimmy is listed, and so is Reed Duschester, or whatever this guy's name is, who was mentioned in that Time Magazine article, along with another man named Jim Murray. But there is no Susan Perisher, and there's no Tracy Perisher. Now, this was interesting to me because they were named on other business documents. And I just keep thinking about that tweet. I can't get it out of my mind. I'm never giving up control of Feastables. Why? Because the burger company was messing stuff up. Because why? Because Young Beast signed a bad deal. But Young Beast did not sign that deal. His mother did. And she signed it according to this lawsuit. The agreement was dated September 3rd, 2020. So Sue was already the power of attorney. Legally, we saw the signed document. So I do believe that Sue did sign the agreement. Jimmy did not sign the agreement, but Jimmy is the one got sued. Jimmy and Jimmy's company got sued. Sue didn't get sued, even though she signed the agreement as the agent, as the representative. It just makes me wonder why. Those people knew for a fact Sue was the one entered into that agreement. So why didn't she also get sued? I don't know. She's also the COO of the company, or she was. Now that leads me to my final piece of evidence. I looked up the corporate filings for Feastables. And this company is based in Illinois, the company that has the chocolate bars. And they're also going to be branching out into other stuff. Spoiler alert, you learned it here first. They're going to be making cereal-based snacks, granola bars. They're going to be making drinks, beverages. Beast Beverage just got also established in September 2023, which also doesn't seem to involve Susan, but I didn't look that closely. So I have the filing up right now. I'm not going to pull it up. I'll put a picture of it up because this does have people's addresses and stuff. And I know that this platform can be a little bit about that sometimes. So I'll put up a, what's it called? Redacted version of this for y'all. But suffice it to say, the company that Jimmy is never giving up control over, it's an Illinois-based company. That's what they're trying to file for the trademarks under Feastables Inc. and all this, okay? Like I already told y'all, there's no Sue mentioned anywhere on this document, but in Illinois, they have a special law that not all states have where you have to include every officer and every director on the business filing. And so, legally, if someone is an officer or director of a company, like say, for example, president, treasurer, something like that, you have to tell the state of Illinois. You have to tell them. Okay. So here's Feastables Inc. Like I said, I'll put it up, redacted. And it says, look right here. The names and addresses of all officers and directors must be listed here. Who's the president? Jim Murray. Who's the secretary? Jim Murray. Who is one director? The first director listed. Reed Juxshire. I don't know how to say his name. Okay. Then they have someone, Susan McNullah, who's the controller. I don't know who that is. And then there's a second page where you would put, if you ran out of room on the first page. And look, boom, right there. James Donaldson. Okay. Now there is one other filing from this company as well with the Illinois Secretary of State. It was filed about a year later. And this time, same people are listed. Jim Murray, president. Jim Murray, secretary. Director, Jimmy Donaldson. And the other director is Reed Duxshire, who I think is maybe Mr. Beast's manager. Actually, I have his name written somewhere. Let me just... Jimmy's manager. He's the one, he's mentioned in the Time Magazine article. He's the one that describes those early days as the typical startup grind, you know, like rise and grind or whatever. According to him, he would sleep on a mattress on Jimmy's extra bedroom when Jimmy first bought his house. Now, these people could still be CEOs of Mr. Beast YouTube LLC, Mr. Beast Burger, any of that stuff, right? I'm only was talking about just now Feastables, because that's the one where Jimmy said, I'm never giving up control of Feastables. Young Beast signed a bad deal. Who did he give up control of Feastables to? Maybe it was that company, VDC, or maybe it was Susan Marie King Donaldson Perisher. And if you're just coming across this video as the first time, you don't know what I do and you're not familiar with what I do, or like why I would be so worked up over this, is because I've seen time and time again parents who appear to be altruistic. They appear to be here to help their kids, but really behind the scenes, they are drunk with power. And Sue is really on my list because I read her whole book. Yes, I did in 1.5 days. I read the whole book. Within one day, I had that whole book read. And in the book, she admits that she was a mother. She said that she was bad. She was, let me tell y'all what she said about herself real quick. In her own words, she says that she was a, quote, moody, uninterested, and overwhelmed mother who regrets not spending meal times with her young and impressionable children. It's also widely reported that Sue was very often not actually even around to raise her own kids. And at the time, the kids would be left with au pairs and pretty much to their own devices. And she admits in her book that she had a horrendous mental breakdown after leaving her husband, Charles Richard Donaldson Sr., the son of Charles Nelson Donaldson, and the father of Charles Richard Donaldson Jr., who y'all might know as CJ. But look, listen, when the woman's already admitting that she was moody and irresponsible, whatever in the hell she was saying, and she's admitting that the kids had a bad life and it was at least in part her fault, now she's the one that has primary access and exclusive access from Jimmy to his own bank accounts. I want to be very careful. If Jimmy had access to his bank accounts, but his mom also did, that would be a totally different story. That would be a completely different consideration to me. But the fact that Jimmy does not have access to his own bank account, his own master bank account, but the mom does, and then all these deals are happening that he's outwardly typing on his Twitter account that he didn't want to be in anymore. And now I know that he didn't actually sign the papers for that. I just have questions. And I'll find the answers. Don't you worry, I'll find the answers. Now, With all the drama and all the turmoil and all the scandal and all the allegations flying back and forth, I understand that James Stephen Donaldson, Mr. Beast, is not the most sympathetic of characters. But I see it with a little bit more nuance than that. This person is very young adult who got thrust into worldwide fame, algorithm riding fame at extremely young age. And I bet he did feel like he could confide in and trust in his own mother. I've also seen people who think that they can do that, Bam Margera, and their mothers are locking them up in rehabs and things. What I will say is anything depraved, anything disgusting, anything bad that anybody has done, including James Stephen Donaldson, they need to be held responsible and accountable for. But I have to keep the two separate nuances out in my mind, or else it's just, I don't want to live in this stupid world with y'all where y'all don't know how to use nuance. So if you're a person that can't use nuance, get off my channel. I don't like you over here. Go way back. That's all I really have for today. I will be continuing to follow up with this story, but in the meantime, facts ain't defamation, and neither are public records, and neither are speculatory opinions, Susan. Love you, Mina K. Bye. Backtrack, and you should have kept my name out your mouth. As we go, how it